Hello, welcome. I'm excited to be with you live today at doTERRA head office, corporate, the beautiful campus of doTERRA here in Pleasant Grove, Utah. My name is Maree and I'm one of your presidential diamonds, and I guess I get to be the guru on food today, and I'm so excited. Two of my passions are essential oils and food, and I'm excited to tell you that you can combine those. And I love cooking with oils, and so today we're going to talk a little bit about some cooking with oils and some ways that you can incorporate those with your classes, in your home, with your food, and for any of other foodies out there, then maybe you can incorporate the oils. So I was introduced to essential oils over 15 years ago, and I knew you could use them aromatically, and I knew you could use them topically. But when I met my good friend Gina Truman, and she actually took a bottle of essential oil out of her cupboard, and it was not coriander, it was digestion. She actually dropped a couple of drops of digestion under her tongue. I was like, what are you doing, Gina? Like, it really was shocked to me. So that's when I was introduced to the idea of ingesting an essential oil. And for me, it just opened up this whole flavor in my kitchen, and I was so excited because I love to cook. I come from a family of cooks and chefs, and our family owns a Mexican restaurant in northern Utah, and so we do a lot of cooking. I have a very large family, and our events are all around the cooking and where's it going to be and what food are we going to have. And so for me, the cooking with essential oils really became one of my passions, and I loved the aspect of adding the essential oils to my flavorful meals. And so as I started to look at what was in the pure essential oils that we have of doTERRA, and they were certified, they're tested, they're above organic, they're an amazing oil, and I realized that what was in my cooking cupboard was flavors filled with alcohol and other fillers, that they were not pure, that my peppermint flavoring was not pure, that my lemon flavoring was not pure, and my cinnamon, that they were not pure. So when I started to take those out and replace and add the essential oils and started to cook with them, that's when things really opened up. So I like to say that this is the aromatherapy for the tongue, that this opens up the essential oils really bring to life the food, and they're so amazing when you add them to your food. So at every class that we started doing way back when, almost 8 years ago, is my anniversary is in November, this coming up month. So it's been 8 years that we started to teach classes, and at every class we had a food item with the oils, or we definitely would have a nice jar with lemon lime water, or create this yummy lemonade, this lavender lemonade, or a grapefruit fruit drink. And I loved adding the flavors to our classes. We always had a peppermint brownie, or we made chocolate covered pretzels with wild orange or peppermint in them, and we always just had this delightful flavor of food at our classes, and it became kind of one of the things that we would teach from, is the fact that you could actually use them to cook with. And so for us, it became a really great way of adding flavor to our classes, and I love having these yummy foods that we can introduce to people at the end. And so then I started to do actually a food cooking class, and so we would set up this little demo table. I'd be put on my little doTERRA apron, kind of become a little Rachel Ray, which they don't know who Rachel Ray is in Australia. So, but Rachel Ray is a dynamic U.S. cooking chef show. And so I would put on my apron and I would start kind of tossing food together at a class and show people how simple it was to add the oils. And when you're cooking with the oils, you want to be really careful. You've got to test it first. Some of them are very, very strong and very potent, and they could overdo very easily. One of the ones that is one of my favorites is basil. Love using basil. We would just take some olive oil and some vinegar, and we would just put it in a little bowl, and we'd add a drop of basil, or a drop of thyme, or a drop of oregano, and we'd have a yummy little dipping sauce for our bread. And the basil also is one of my favorites to add to my homemade bruschetta, which is so good. And take some fresh tomatoes and throw that together with a little fresh basil. You've got to have that fresh basil just for the look, and then you'd add a drop of basil, but you'd have to really be careful about the amounts again. Sometimes it would just be a toothpick, so you just take a little toothpick. Sometimes I would just drop a little bit on a spoon and then just barely lightly add that, depending on how much and the quantity of it. So you have to be very careful when you do cook with the oils, but it adds such amazing flavor. We love to make desserts. I love cream cheese frosting with grapefruit or citrus bliss in my cream cheese frosting, and with a little lemon cookie that we could just make this yummy little cookie. I created this On Guard popcorn dish with On Guard and Chex Mix, and threw some nuts in there and some cranberries, melted a little butter, and we'd add On Guard, we'd add cassia, we'd add cinnamon, and mix all that together, and that was really, really yummy. People loved the food at our classes, and they loved the flavor of it. And especially this time as we're going into the holidays, I love to also just give like a sample of On Guard and my grandma's homemade banana nut bread recipe with a little, little loaf of that, and just say, happy holiday cooking, or share, my favorite recipe, my favorite sugar cookie recipe with a sample of a wild orange, and let them know that this opens up another way of using the essential oils. So we love using them in our educationals. We just have these phenomenal oil, flavorful foods in the background, and a lot of times as we travel and we don't really have the kitchen, we'll actually throw out a contest to our team and say, who can bring the most yummiest thing made with the oils, and we'll have a little cooking, a little contest at the back of the room. We set up our guys to kind of sample the yummy foods at the back of the room with the oils in it, and anything with chocolate and wild orange or peppermint is definitely phenomenal. And I've also even added a drop of wintergreen in my fudge, just to actually throw that yummy fudge wintergreen flavor in. I also love cooking with the new, the Holiday Joy that's coming out. It's a really yummy one in some breads and in some other little cookies, pumpkin cookies that we make with just a little tinge of the Holiday Joy. So as you're kind of opening up your thoughts, take out your recipe book and start looking at some of your family recipes, some of the traditional recipes, and start adding a few oils as you kind of start cooking. Marinara sauce with oregano and thyme and marjoram is amazing, just to add a drop. As I've also just finished canning, I love to preserve, and I love putting up homemade dill pickles and homemade salsa and homemade spaghetti sauce. I've used them in my canning. I've used the dill with my dill pickles, and it really flavors the pickles so yummy, and the salsa, it adds such a beautiful flavor. So look around and look at the ways that you're cooking, the ways that you're using your kitchen, and start incorporating the essential oils in them. So what I'm really so excited about is doTERRA's new Empowered series and their new class kits that they have. And they actually have cooking materials. So you are prepared to teach a class, like right now. If you go to doTERRA.com, and it says Our Advocates, and you kind of just touch on that, and it says Class Kits. If you click on that, you actually will have a whole cooking class that comes up with a PowerPoint, with the handout. You actually have cute little invites with a little cooking on the action on the back. So you have a little invite that you can invite people to. You've got why take essential oils internally for you, so that you can do some explaining. And then you have these darling little recipe cards. And like I said, with a PowerPoint, doTERRA is really creating such a simplicity way of duplicating. And this is it. This cooking class is amazing. Bring in your own little flavorful recipes, or go with what they have there. And it's a phenomenal way to just add flavor to your foods. We've really made a difference as we've shared the cooking with the oils. Our family's known for their tableside guacamole, and they just make the tableside guacamole fresh right there. And a drop of lime or a drop of some lemon, a little wild orange in there really flavors it so yummy. But one of the most interesting things about the oils is I've had people say that it cooks off, and it probably does. But I actually had a neighbor that I invited to one of my classes, and she called me and said, I feel so bad I can't come to your class. I'm not feeling good. I'm actually coming down with something. And so after I kind of finished my class that day, I got home and I threw together some of my mom's homemade chicken noodle soup. and I threw some oregano and thyme in that and kind of let that just simmer on the stove with that oregano and thyme. And then I actually made little homemade rolls, and I took rosemary butter and I did that across the rolls, and then I took a little half-gallon of orange juice and I threw in some On Guard. And I took over the homemade soup and the rolls and the On Guard orange juice, and I said, eat the soup, eat the rolls, drink the juice, and we'll talk. And the next morning she called and she said, okay, start talking, because I feel so much better. And she actually knew it was because of, well, of course, you get yummy food that somebody brings you when you're not feeling well, but I also know that having those oils taken internally in her at a time when her system was probably depleted, it was probably, you know, working to keep the immune system going, that actually really helped her and buoyed her right up. So don't ever discount that the oils are still going to have their beautiful, magical healing power when you cook with them. The food is really yummy. It just opens up the flavors, and people get so excited when they're having a lemon, lavender, peppermint chocolate that's going to actually help with their airways and help relieve whatever they're dealing with at that time. So it's a phenomenal way to share the oils by cooking with the food, and I hope that this has been a little bit of some tips to help you as you also take on some cooking classes. I loved that doTERRA put up a challenge. Schedule your cooking class. You've got a couple of months before the holidays hit. It's a perfect time of year to get some cooking scheduled in and invite some friends and family over and cook with the oils and show them the amazing ways that you can open up their flavorful buds and introduce the oils to them. So go get your classes on the schedule and get your cooking on, and thanks for joining us for today for Cooking with Essential Oils.